Hey everyone, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today, I bring you guys a review of Bungo Stray Dogs. Now, Bungo Stray Dogs was something that came out last season. I wanted to do I wanted to do episodic reviews for it, but when I watched the first episode, I wasn't that hooked to it. I know a lot of my friends were, and they were telling me how great the first episode was, and I just didn't see something from it. But to me, I couldn't get anything out of the first episode. I mean, I thought it was interesting in terms of the art and animation and the concept, but it didn't hook me, if that makes any sense. So recently, I had one of my friends tell me, why don't you give it a shot again? Watch the rest of it. What's wrong with you? You'll love it. Trust me, you'll love the show. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll give it another shot because I don't like dropping shows in general. So I say that all the time, but it's very true. I want to kind of put that out there, but I did try it again, and honestly, I finished this all in 2 days, I believe, because this show is freaking awesome. I'll just say that it is one of the coolest shows I've seen, and I almost regret not reviewing this weekly because I think that I would have really gotten something out of it watching it weekly. But maybe in itself, maybe it was better that I waited till the whole thing so I can kind of marathon it in my own time. So anyways, let's talk about Bungo Stray Dogs and what kind of makes it so good, in my opinion, and what's interesting about it. So, Bungo Stray Dogs, first and foremost, has a really cool concept. All the characters in this are based off of writers. So, even our main character, Atsushi Nakajima, I'm gonna call him Nakajima because that's actually easier for me to say as that part of the name, is based off of a writer. Azumu Daizai is based off of a writer. Doppo Kunakita. These are all characters you'll see in the show. And what's really cool about the show is that it takes their essence, what makes them, so famous and infamous, because some characters are infamous in real life. It takes their essence and puts it into a kind of caricature format in a show that is essentially about these cast of people that all have supernatural abilities. Like, for example, our main character, Nakajima, has the ability to turn into a were-tiger, so he could actually become an embodiment of a tiger. Osamu Dazai is able to cancel out other abilities from other people. Doppo is actually able to copy anything that he sees and copy that at a molecular level and make it real. And there's a whole bunch of other characters. You have characters that can do crazy, crazy things, but always, what's really interesting about it is it's always within the realms of how their characters were almost in real life. For example, like, I think Dazai, one thing about Dazai, if you've read his works, and I'll tell you right now, I kind of don't tell people to read his works, which is not something that you should not do. Don't not read his things. Just read them if you are strong-willed, because a lot of his works are very melodramatic, sad, and very emotionally powerful. And the thing is, like, he used to do it, like, in the show, I should say, he deals with suicide a lot in the show. He makes jokes about it, and always says he wants to commit double suicide with hot women and all that stuff. That's something that his real life counterpart actually used to do too, because his real life counterpart actually tried to commit suicide several dozen times. Only on the last time was actually successful, but he did that with various women and stuff like that. So he wrote a story about it too. But what's interesting about that is his ability to nullify everything is almost in the sense of how his works are, because his works are a lot of times based off of a kind of fusion between his own reality and also a fictional realm, which is really interesting. They're almost considered like autobiographies that aren't autobiographies. I know there's an actual word for it, but I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But Bungo Stray Dogs follows a very episodic format, which is something that is usually something I don't like. A lot of times, I am not a huge diehard fan of anything that follows an episodic format. The reason being is I always feel that, you have certain episodes that, of course, could be stronger, and then certain episodes that be weaker. And I know that's kind of an odd thing to say, but a lot of times with anime, that could be really hit or miss. I usually like continuation stories, like the ones that, if they have a filler episode here and there, that's perfectly fine. But stuff that has just a continuation to it. Bungo Stray Dogs has pseudo continuation to it, because there are episodes with continuity that go into a bigger arc, but overall every episode is like a new mystery or a new thing for this detective agency to solve using their supernatural powers. But honestly, one thing I noticed was that every episode I watched, I was like, I gotta watch another one. I gotta watch another one. The other day alone, I watched, I think, 6 episodes, and I didn't realize, I was like, how many episodes I just go through? Oh shit! When you get that enthralled or caught into something, I think, to me, that means it's a good show. That's just me though. But I do really think it's a really cool show. Now, like I said before, it's not perfect. It has its flaws. Namely, the only flaw I could really think of though and this is something from, I guess, a non-biased perspective, is the episodic format. I do know a lot of people don't like that format. There are several episodes that kind of feel like they aren't needed, if that makes sense. Like, so example, the I think it's the second to last episode feels like it's just meant to be a break in between. One of the other episodes, I forgot what it was. I want to say it was like one of the earlier ones too. Also felt like it was a break in between, so almost kind of feels like a filler episode. It's not though per se. It's just meant to kind of introduce and show more characters of the agency, but that could be an issue for some people. So know that going into it, that this is not trying to be, I guess, a whole story of continuation arc. I mean, there are concepts like the agency deals with the port agency mafia, which is a separate group of people that have powers also, that are trying to go after them and kill them and stuff like that, and take down Nakajima because he is a were tiger, or capture him and stuff like that. I'm not gonna get too much into the spoiler stuff because there is some cool story stuff behind all this, but more so it's just the concept is there that it isn't always episodic. It just follows an episodic format. If that makes sense. I mean, it's a little harder to convey until you actually watch the show yourself, which I highly recommend. Even if you aren't into episodic stuff, definitely check this out. I mean, honestly, let's talk about all the positive stuff because there's plenty of it. I love the characters. I love, again, because I know most of these characters. I don't know every single one of them because I am a huge, fan of books and stuff like that. I'm a big bookworm. I do know a few of them. I had to look up a few other ones. Like, I didn't actually know who Nakajima was. I heard about him once before, but I knew who Dopo was, and I knew who Ranpo, and I know, of course, Dazai, and a few others. So I had to look up several people. But for the most part, I knew most of them. Now, what's really cool about them, though, is that, like I said before, that is kind of the crux of the show, is having these characters and them basing themselves on their real life counterparts. So, for example, Dopo in real life was very pessimistic. He was one of those people that he believed in realism, which is the concept, of course, if you don't know, the concept that everything around you is exactly as it is. So if you believe in this or that, it is that. It's not, and that sometimes leaves a very melodramatic taste in your mouth when you kind of just always believe the world around you is a specific way. But I think they call it also naturalism, I believe is the actual word for it. I had to look it up a couple minutes ago. Just I wanted to see the nuances behind it, but yeah, that's like a form of naturalism. But I love that about the show, though, because it's you take a character that could be seen as so realistic and make him a caricature, but in a good, smart way, is something that's rare, and it's something that's even done even less in shows. I mean, you see a lot of shows that make mentions, like, for example, the new show coming out, so this kind of dates this, but Drifters is a show that's coming out soon, and Drifters is based off of old, like, war heroes and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's stuff that, you can make caricatures out of characters, but I've never seen it done in this way that it's really pretty close to how they were without being insulting to them in many ways. Now, another thing I loved was the art animation of this show. Oh my god. It is freaking phenomenal. Like, again, I don't know what it was with the first episode. I rewatched the first episode recently because I wanted to see what it was. And I still don't really like the first episode. There's something about it that doesn't give me a good hook. It's like after the first episode, episode 2 and onward, I then get this hook that wants you to watch the show from me. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, honestly. I can't explain it. But, I really love the art and animation. I love the character design and stuff like that. I mean, this shouldn't be a surprise. I believe, I want to say Bones did this. I want to say Bones was the ones who produced. Yeah, it was Bones. They do some amazing work. I think that they always have very stellar and very visually appealing animations. So I am not surprised at all that this is just this nice to look at. OST-wise, voice acting, all that, also very well done. I love the opening. I love the closing song. I love the music that's used during like fights and during the kind of melodramatic or toned down sequences of the show. I think it's very well done also. Now, I really have no more higher praise I can give the show. I mean, like I said, it's still out of my comfort zone with the episodic things. So, I mean, honestly, I loved each episode. I enjoyed watching it. I binged it, essentially. But I still am not a huge fan of the episodic concept. I would have more preferred a longer story, but I think the way they did it also is one of those good ways to keep making sure that everyone knows all the characters. And with the season 2 ahead, I presume that the season 2 is going to focus more on the bigger plot that's ahead with a new group that was introduced toward the end of the show called the Guild. I'm not going to explain too much about them because that's a spoiler, so I definitely want you guys to check it out. But overall, being that Bungo Stray Dogs does a lot right, what does it get on my score? What does it get? So if I had to rate this between an A through F, I have to give it a solid A minus, honestly. This show is awesome. It is freaking awesome. I was entertained by every episode. There was not a single episode that I was like bored with except for the first one, and that's, that in itself is kind of what makes it keep it from, like, I guess, keep it higher for me, because no matter what, I think you have to have your first episode of anything, even if it's a Western show or whatever, has to be a hook. And for me, that first episode doesn't have that hook. I don't know. I mean, for other people, it was what hooked them. So I try to stay unbiased with that, because that's not, I don't think it's fair to the show to say, oh, the first episode wasn't good or anything like that, because it was good probably to other people, of course. But to me, it just wasn't that great. I mean, the first episode was the weakest part of the series. But I mean, out of 12 episodes, if you only have one bad episode, I think you're doing a good job. Honestly, I just really enjoyed this, and I can't highly recommend enough to check it out if you really want a kind of supernatural story with like a bunch of interesting characters, and I think well done comedy slash drama. I think the show does a really good job with that. Now, I will say I will be reviewing, because I caught up with it, I will be reviewing this season coming, the episodic. I'll do episodic reviews for Bungo Stray Dogs season 2, so look forward to that. And anyways, guys and girls, that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video. You know the whole nine. I will talk to y'all later. Until our paths cross again in the next review, have a blessed day, everyone. Bye-bye.